Project labor agreements, or PLAs, a long-time agreement of choice for large projects, are being used for construction and modernization jobs by an increasing number of public agencies and private companies, including Wal-mart.
Money talks. It's a saying that anyone who's ever done any kind of work in any kind of business has heard dozens of times. Certainly the construction world is no different. And one tool both the public and private sectors are starting to ask for when it comes to the successful completion of their job is a project labor agreement, or PLA. PLAs are contracts entered into between labor management and the owner that promote innovation and coordination on the job. Important factors like workflow, work environment, communication, and safety can all be brought to bear on a job using a project labor agreement. And it's no coincidence that these are the very factors that ultimately affect both the cost and quality of the job. PLAs deliver the highest trained, best skilled, and most productive construction professionals in the world. But most importantly, they deliver peace of mind. Owners know that the job will be completed on time, on or under budget, and will be constructed correctly the first time. See, years ago, PLAs were mainly used for huge government projects such as dams, bridges, and the like, but today both public and private projects, large and small, and to varying degrees of complexity, are being completed under project labor agreements. There is really only one reason why the people paying the bill are liking what they see. The list of cost-conscious companies that are now realizing the benefits of PLAs continues to grow, and during a recent live webcast, BCTD President Mark Ayers talked about one of the latest converts.
Wal-mart is now signing PLAs. They just signed an agreement in New York City to sign PLAs on construction and remodel of Wal-mart stores. There's other areas throughout the nation that Wal-mart's turning to PLAs and in some cases local agreements. Wal-mart doesn't do anything unless it's the best for their bottom line.
Other private companies or institutions that have used project labor agreements include Boeing, Disney, Arco, Harvard, and Toyota. In fact, all of Toyota's North American manufacturing plants have been built under PLAs, and the company has reported that their construction costs are significantly less than their competitors who don't use PLAs. Once thought of as nothing more than a government jobs being offered as political payback, PLAs are just increasing in popularity, not just with Uncle Sam, but with the private sector as well. So says Dr. Peter Phillips, an economist who's been studying the construction industry for 20 years.
Nobody signs a project labor agreement because they have a gun to their head. They only sign it if they're going to get something they couldn't get otherwise. Most project labor agreements are signed in the private sector. They are not public sector contracts. They are private sector contracts. 3 out of 4 project labor agreements are private sector contracts.
Last year alone, more than 155 public and private projects totaling more than $100 billion in work have been submitted as PLAs.
Usually it's the economic savings that can be achieved by going with a project labor agreement. And most times we're approached to do feasibility studies because an owner wants to consider a project labor agreement. We're not sales people for project labor agreements. We don't go out there trying to sell people to use them. Owners ask us to take a look at it, to give them trusted advice on using a project labor agreement.
So what's behind the trend? Owners and industry leaders are finding out the truth about project labor agreements. When they look a little deeper, the results and the research speak for themselves, even in the face of our competition's well-funded campaign against PLAs. We've already addressed the issue that project labor agreements are too expensive, simply because if that were true, private companies who answer to their stockholders wouldn't use them. And any cost overruns that our competitions might try to highlight are due to scope and change orders asked for by the customers in midstream. In these cases, the final cost would be impacted regardless of whether the project was completed under a PLA or not. In fact, project labor agreements can actually reduce costs. Nothing has a more negative and costly impact on a job than accidents, and the culture of safety instituted by the building trades can have a positive effect on the bottom line. That's because, particularly on large projects, PLAs often contain sophisticated health and safety provisions. Things like overall safety practices and training, safety committees, and drug testing can be incorporated into PLAs.
There can be cost advantages to PLAs in terms of reducing the cost to owners. I don't know specifically to public projects, but PLAs can be used to address workers' compensation issues, to reduce costs. They can be used to implement successful safety programs. In fact, by implementing programs across a project, it's been shown that they reduce costs of effective safety programs. So there are a number of reasons. I would say that cost and on-time completion are the leading reasons.
What about the school of thought that project labor agreements limit competition? Well, whether you're a taxpayer contributing to a government project or an owner ready to break ground, you certainly want people to bid for the job, to earn the work. We agree. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, the research doesn't support the view that it limits competition or that any reduction in the number of competitors increases price. I mean, going from 100 competitors just speculatively down to 50 has no effect on price. But realistically, PLAs, one could be concerned about that, but there's no credible evidence that they substantially limit the number of competitors. There may be some cases where, for example, open shoppers deliberately refuse to bid, and that could have an effect. But overall, I haven't seen credible evidence that it limits the number of competitors on a project.
In the San Jose area of California, 2 school districts, the East Side Union School District and the San Jose School District, both underwent large capital projects. To get the work done, one used a PLA, the other did not.
So we went in and looked at around 100 projects in these 2 districts over a 4-year time span, and both before and after the implementation of the PLA in the East Side District. And we found that the number of bidders on those projects were not different.
What do projects involving the Port of Oakland, Boston Harbor, the Southern Nevada Water Project, and the New York City schools have in common? Well, they're just a few of the many PLAs where the open shop has participated in the work. Why then does our competition continue to claim they're excluded?
New York City School Construction Authority, and don't quote me on the numbers, but out of about 500 contractors, I think about 110 were non-union contractors, and 300 and some odd were union. So there is a mix. They are not union only, and they've worked out. They've worked out. There's been 2 studies on the project I'm talking about for the New York City School Construction Authority, which was a huge building program of all their schools, hundreds of schools. And a study did show and prove that there were savings using project labor agreements.
Bluntly, from the union's perspective, I think it's a good marketing tool. If the unions behave well and treat those open shop contractors fair, they can break down some barriers that they might not have ever had that opportunity before.
It's a new day in the building trades. In the past, we were at times our own worst enemy. America's building trades unions are committed to value on display every day. We're achieving that goal due in large part to the widespread adoption of local accountability standards and codes of excellence for our rank and file. Slowly but surely, we're changing the outdated stereotypes and prejudices that unfortunately continue to reside in many people's minds. We know that our success is tied directly to our ability to deliver for the customer. From our leadership on down to the construction professionals that walk through that gate, ours is a customer comes first attitude, where we treat every single job as an audition for the next one.
The depiction of the way unions were in another time is just that. It is another time. This is well, uncharted territory in the last couple of years for the economy, but labor unions have adapted, they've adjusted, they've modernized, and have become very sophisticated because it's about business. They are business savvy. I shouldn't say become, but they are business savvy, and they use the tools of business.
So PLAs should be thought of as essentially a discovery tool designed to look out into the world and see if there are mutual victories out there that are not being captured in the market without this contract.